Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first live countdown to kickoff. Obviously, last week, Harry, Max, and Chaz were joined by Max's friend from university. I can't remember his name. They did that preview show on the Wednesday, and it turned out that we were massively behind on the news. So we are here. We've obviously got a week's worth of stuff to discuss. Just before we start, what I am going to do is I am going to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prime Vehicle Sales. That is my mum's business. They're based in Sawtrey. So thank you to them for supporting us. If you're interested in a used car or used van or anything like that sort of stuff, head down to them, check their website out. It's primevehiclesales.co.uk, and they will be more than delighted to help you with your next car or van purchase. Now, obviously, tonight I'm joined by Max again, and I'm joined from Dave from When the Town podcast, which is a Luton Town podcast. Dave, thank you for joining us tonight. I guess the first question is, how was last week for you?
Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me on. Last week was a bit of a, if you watch it on TV, it was just like it was on the telly, terrible. It wasn't what we expected, but the most important thing was to start with a win and get 3 points. And given I don't think we've won the first game of the season for about 4 seasons. So it was good to do that, but it wasn't very inspiring. I think Wimbledon came and set themselves up not to lose. They defended brilliantly. Did we have a bit of luck with the goal? Yeah, we did. But we created that luck there. And I think it's a good start because of the points. We've got to be a lot more better, much more better than that to be where we want to be this season. I'm glad with the 3 points. Disappointed with the whole performance overall. I suppose the only plus is we announced a striker before the game. So we're wondering, can we get any worse than that? I don't think so. I think we can only get better than that. But it's early days, and don't start judging everything on one game at all. It's just not worth it, because we all know that won't define our season as yet. But it's good to start with a win, albeit lucky.
Dev, I just wanted to sort of talk about your summer business. It was interesting to me because it didn't feel like you were overly active in the market, and then all of a sudden you announced a triple header, didn't you, of Lonwick, Naki Wells, and Odoffin, and it seemed then that League One sort of realised that you had come to play, because they are 3 fantastic signings. How do you rate your summer business, and can you expect anybody? Are you expecting anybody else sort of through the door?
Well, you're right about the 3 in a row, because everyone was going a bit mental because we hadn't signed anybody up till that point, and they announced them when they were out training in Slovenia. And then we thought, well, that's a good start. And in between that, now we've signed, I think, 9 or 10 players. And of those 10 players that come in, I'm quite excited about the young guy from Exeter, but I don't think he's going to be a starter, Jake Richards. Naismith was a given. He's a leader on the pitch, and we needed him last season. We needed him for the whole season. We didn't get him. Naki Wells was a surprise to me, but actually he's quite established, isn't he? And from what he'd done against Wimbledon, I thought, actually a very good buy. Lonwick I don't really know too much about, but again, I suspect he's been trailed by us for a while. We've got him on loan with an obligation to buy. So we must think he's got a lot of potential with us. And the keeper, we lost some really key players over the summer. And we got a keeper in now, Josh Keeley, who he was at Orient, wasn't he, for the other season when he scored that fantastic goal. And he's exactly what we needed. Kaminsky was a brilliant shot stopper, and I liked him in goal, but I think the Luton fans would say he didn't really command his box as well, and he didn't talk as lot. Josh Keeley on Friday last week did a clearance from the centre circle practically. He ran quite a long way and cleared the ball on a really dangerous attack. He's very vocal, and we're likely to have him. George Saville's another one that's come in. It was a bit slow to start, Max, but at the end of the day, we signed 9 and. Well, you say, is there anyone else? I think we signed 10. I can't remember the 10th one. I've got them written in front of me. I can't remember the 10th one. We were due to sign your guy from Col U this week. but that's all gone pear-shaped, and that's not happening anymore. So unless we lose anymore, I don't know that we will sign anymore. But we've got to be happy with some. There'll be some Luton fans that will sit here and go, well, we have all this money from the Premier League time, and we really haven't spent it. We've got frees and we've got undisclosed fees as well, obviously. So lots of people would want us to spend more, but I'm of the opinion that the club is going. It doesn't look it right now, but it's going in the right direction financially. No debt, new stadium coming along, started to be built. Should we have reinvested earlier in the Premier League? Yes, we should have done. We didn't. Should we have done better in the Championship? Of course we should have done. But this season, these new signings hopefully will push us towards the top end of the table, and at least we should, at the very least, be challenging for promotion. And if we're not, it'll be a disappointing season for us.
Well, Dave, you've just pretty much answered the next question that I was going to ask. Are you sure that Luton have got what it takes now to push for top 6? Realistically, it should probably be top 2, shouldn't it? I know that Dale, when we did our predictions episode, he predicted Luton to get relegated again. I think the rest of us were a little bit more polite in our predictions, and I think that we all had Luton either top 2 or in the playoffs at a push. So are you confident that you've got what's in the door now, even after last week?
Not yet. I think we need to see more of this team playing in this division. I'd be mortified if we're in a relegation battle. And if we're in a relegation battle in this division, then there is something incredibly wrong with my club. I'm expecting us to challenge and absolutely challenge for the top 6 places. And you're right, ultimate goal would be top 2. But I'm not going to be that arrogant and say we're going to get there, because that would be wrong, because there's some decent teams in this division. And I would expect us to be challenging them all. And, after 10, 12 games, we'll sort of get a better idea of where we are in this division. Should we? Absolutely, we should be challenging. We are the club from the Premier League from 2 seasons ago who's still getting Premier League parachute payments. Of course, we should be challenging, in that respect. We've got more money than we've ever had since we. And I've come to Posh quite a few times to watch Luton play, and we've never been financially this better off than you guys ever. And it's been, we should be challenging, but then again, we haven't shelled out the dosh. We haven't shelled it out. We've done some good business on for the incomings. So what I'm thinking is, I do expect us to challenge. I'm not going to be arrogant and say, we're going to finish top 2, because I don't know yet. I'd like us to think that we're capable of finishing that far up. But by the same extent, I thought we wouldn't get relegated last season. And look what happened, we binned our manager too late. Matt Bloomfield didn't have a lot of time. But Matt Bloomfield got us going for the last 10 games of the season. We were practically unbeaten until the last game, the one that we didn't have to lose to stay up, and we lost it. So I'm thinking it's a disappointing season if we don't get the top 6. If we get the top 2, it'll be a bonus, because as glorious as the playoffs are to go up in, they're terrible to lose in. And I've seen Luton losing quite a few of those. So I'm not going to be arrogant. I'm not going to say we're the best team in the division, because I don't know that we are. But as time goes on, we'll find out where we lie. And if it's not top 6, I'll be really annoyed and really disappointed.
Dave, the next question then, I guess, is when you think about Peterborough, and obviously you've mentioned times gone by where we've been one of the bigger fish in League One, do you think, and the Posh fan base at the moment, I think our highest prediction even on the podcast was 13th. Do you see Posh as one of the teams that can be competing with you guys for the playoffs at a minimum, or do you see us as ultimately a small fish now and somebody that you should be coming and taking 6 points off in a season?
Well, I don't look at anyone as small fish, because I've watched football for a long time, and I know that that will come back and bite me. So what I'm going to say is, every time I've come up to you guys and seen Luton, when we've been expected to win and we've lost. There was a couple of seasons ago where I thought we're coming down, it's a great day, and we got absolutely binned. And I thought, this always happens when I come here. always. So as far as you guys go, I would expect you to have a reasonable season. I haven't looked at your ins and outs, and I have to be totally honest with you, because of where we've been, I haven't been too bothered about you guys. Obviously, you watch the Football League programs, but I don't know, how that is. In the past, you've gone really well, haven't you? And then suddenly dropped off. And so that's typical. You're going really, really well, and then you drop off, and then you don't make that even the top 6. So I would say for you guys, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that if you get mid-table and then you can push for towards the end of the season, that would probably be a good one. So I'm saying I'm not worried by Peterborough at the moment, but again, it's only been one game. At Cardiff, he was at Cardiff, wasn't he? First game. Tough place to go. It felt like when I watched something, you probably give them a good game, but then Cardiff last night, they don't get their points at Port Vale. It's difficult, this league, isn't it? You can never ever tell who is. We come down as big favourites because of the money, but look how poor we played against Wimbledon. So it's a difficult one. So I'm going to say to you guys, I would hope for your sake that you have a decent season. I hope that, I think mid-table and then push towards the end of the season. Maybe you'll be that team that, rather than drops off at the end of the season, pushes forward and gets to that 6th, 7th or 6th or 5th spot. Maybe you have that run. In all honesty, I don't see you being top 2. But, there's a lot of people in this division that could finish in the top, isn't there?
Yeah, Dave, I just wanted to sort of talk about the game in a little bit more detail. You say how poor you were against Wimbledon. I think Wimbledon are a team that are extremely good at defending. They're an extremely difficult team to break down. We're sort of the opposite. I think our game plan is to try and go toe-to-toe. We'll look to play out the back. We'll look to play through the midfield. We'll look to hit on the counter. There's a lot of different elements to Posh's game that I don't think are quite League One standard at the moment. We had a very poor season last year. We've had a lot of change. I just wanted to see how you think the game's going to go tomorrow, because I personally think it's going to be far different to the Wimbledon game. And I think depending on who starts the quickest will depend on who wins. But I just thought maybe if you could give your opinion on the game and how you think it's going to go from a Luton standpoint.
I think a little bit of pressure off because we're not at home, and we're expecting you guys to attack us. And I think we'll try and make the best of a quick attack and use space. I've noticed with Matt Bloomfield, since he's been with us, that sometimes direct is the way that he goes. People call that the long ball game. I call it a brilliant pass. And so you need to. I think we'll be looking to break away. I also think we'll be quick on you guys. We'll be right up you real quick. So it depends how. If you're playing fast and furious forward, then we're going to try and pick off that lucky break and predict that break and get away. I think if we score first, that'll give us some more confidence, and I think that then we'll take the game a bit more forward to you guys. If we concede, then we're chasing the game. Then it might open up for you. But pre-season, we scored 19 goals and we conceded 2. I think we're stronger at the back than we've been. A lot stronger at the back than we've been for the last 2 seasons. We've got a good back line. We've got a good goalkeeper. The midfield is okay. We've just been missing that striker up front to score the goals. So I'm hoping we take the game to you. But I suspect in the first few minutes, depends who starts, doesn't it? Depends who kicks off, depends who goes towards the goal first. I'm suspecting that we'll just sort of look you out a bit, see how you're going to play. Our game plan should be to cut you down real quick, and then get you on the break. But I want us to be more positive than we were against Wimbledon, because you're right. Wimbledon came, they parked the bus, and good luck to them. They played a really decent game. We were super lucky with the goal, but as I said earlier, I think we created the goal. The pass from Wells towards Woodrow made their defender make the mistake. I still think Woodrow might have scored, but I think it's going. I don't think it's going to be an easy game by any chance for either of us. But I think the one that takes the reins really early will be the ones that win it. And I always think it's always competitive when we play. It's always competitive. Even if we lose 3-0, I know that we've given it a good go, that sort of thing. But I'm expecting us to shut you down early, take the breaks as quick as we can. We've got some quick players now. Miliali is going to be really fast. And so I'm hopeful that it's a decent match and much better than the one that we saw at Kenilworth Road on Friday. And clearly, as a Luton fan, I'm hoping that we take the initiative and we really go at you. But I think we're away from home. The pressure's off a little bit. I think there's nearly 3,500 of us coming. And I think it's going to be electric. So, hopefully we take advantage of the openings that you will create for us because you want to get forward. And I think that's where we're going to go.
Fingers crossed. Dave, the question that I want to ask of you just before we wrap up on this little segment, are there any Posh players, and I know that you said that you haven't really kept up with Posh because you've been soaring high, are there any Posh players that you look at and think they might cause us a little bit of an issue? Maybe one or two of those players?
You see, there's where I should have done my homework before I come on, and I didn't, if I'm afraid to say that I really don't know too much about your current staff. When we was in the same division, I would have said a few, but at the end of the day, I'm hoping that this is terrible that I'm about to say this out loud, but it's really terrible. I'm hoping you're all terrible tomorrow, and we can have a nice casual afternoon or morning, isn't it? 12:30 kickoff, stupid time. So I have to sort of bow my cap and say I would probably ask you the question, who should we be looking out for, rather than reverse it on you, to be fair. But I don't know enough about your strike force or your goalkeepers or your midfield to give that answer. So I'm just going to be honest.
Max, do you want to give the answer to who Dave should be looking out for? Because I've got not a lot.
I can, if you like, Ashley, and the answer to that is I think the main man that everybody absolutely adores, and that's Big Bad Brad. We've got a player that we seem to rave about almost every single week, and he's just an absolute. You never know who's going to show up. It's either a walking red card or an absolute machine. And in pre-season, he's been quite impressive, and he could be someone that if he can hold the ball up and make himself a nuisance, he could be quite impressive. Another player that I think could cause problems is our new signing, Lolos. I think he's a fantastic addition. We've signed him from Bolton. He's had an unimpressive stint in League One, but he won't start tomorrow, but he'll come on, I presume, for 30 minutes at the end, maybe. And that 30 minutes against tired legs could really prove impressive. And I think he's going to be a problem. Other than that, I don't really know. I think we've got to stay optimistic and hope that we can get something. Again, this is going to be a very different game. It's going to be a very different feel to the Wimbledon one. We're both teams are going to look to try and break on the other and try to force an attack. And I think it's going to be a really, really interesting game. But those two players for me are two players that could cause Luton a lot of grief.
I'll take a walking red card every week. If someone's going to get sent off, please don't let it be us. Let it be, what was his name? Big what?
Bradley Ihombian is the man you're looking for, Dave.
Big Brad. Okay, I'll look out for him on Saturday.
Yeah. So just to wrap us off, Dave, we have got a predictions league, which is sponsored by the Next Level Barbell Club. We're asking basically the opposition fan each week to make a score prediction and a first goal scorer if you believe that your team is going to score against Peterborough United. So just to finish us off on this little segment, if you can give us your score prediction for tomorrow and your first goal scorer.
So if you probably haven't, but if you've ever listened to our podcast, we have a prediction league every week, and every week I say 3-0, and it doesn't happen that often. This week I've said it's going to be Peterborough 1, Luton Town 2. I think we're going to score. I think we might even score first if we're lucky, and I'm going to go with Miliali to score first goal. I live in hope, obviously, and we'll just see how the game goes tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for your time on this Friday evening. I'm sure that you'll be heading back to Birmingham Ipswich, I think is the TV game tonight, isn't it? But once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the insight into Luton.
Can I just say, just before I leave, thank you very much for inviting me on. If you want to see our match reaction, it will be on YouTube. We record on a Monday night. It's on YouTube or Spotify under Luton Town. And we're pretty honest. So, if we're poor, we'll say we're poor, and we'll say that if Peterborough are great, we'll say they're great. So if you want to come up and see our reaction afterwards, please give our site a visit. It'd be fantastic.
Dave, what we'll do is we'll drop the link to your guys' website and stuff into the bio of this, and then we can go from there. But thank you again. And I'm going to drop you off. And we are now going to be joined by Will, who is a Posh fan. And this is part of ultimately what is a new little segment where we want to hear from you guys. So each week we'll have a little bit of time with a Posh fan. So by all means, if you want to see your face next to potentially mine on this side, and then join potentially Max or one of the other hosts during this Friday Night Live, then please do drop me a DM on Twitter or Instagram, either myself or the podcast, and we can reach out and get hopefully a long list of people that want to come and spend and waffle with us. Will, how are you?
Hello, yeah, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here. I've never done live media before, so this is quite an exciting one for me. So yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, I'll kick things off. Were you at the game last week, or did you watch it?
Yeah, no, I travelled down. It was an easy one for me. I don't live too far away from Wales, so and I got family over there as well, so it was a nice one for me to go down to. And overall, I thought the game had 3 segments, really, the Cardiff game. The first 20 minutes, we were really flat and just passed sideways and backwards, and it didn't really create much. Then we had what I would call a lucky penalty. Even though it was a foul, it was very much against the run of play. After we scored, we looked brilliant going into the half-time. Coming out, second half, I don't know what happened, but we went straight back to square one. Obviously conceded quite early on and then went 2-1 down. Went back to our sideways, backwards passing. And then final 20 minutes, brand new team again. And we were attacking and making opportunities. And I thought we were about to almost nick a draw. But Kirill Isby just off the line. It was almost written in the stars.
Yeah, and that's something I definitely see. The problem I've got with Posh at the moment, and it's something that obviously we've only seen us play for one game with this sort of new rejuvenated side that we've got, is the problem is exactly that, isn't it? It feels like it's very predictable stages. We start slow and then we seem to pick up pace, and then we came out the gates really slow. We concede twice, and at the end we throw the kitchen sink at it. And that predictability tomorrow could be something that Luton can pick up on. How do you think the game's going to go tomorrow, Will? Do you think it's going to be different to the Cardiff game, or do you think you can see Posh being quite similar?
Yeah, I think we'll try and do a similar kind of thing. I mean, when you looked at the Wimbledon game against Luton last week, Wimbledon went there with a low block. They weren't going to try and get forward much. Peterborough isn't really about that. We'll try and play our game. So whether that leaves us quite exposed at the back, and I know Luton have got quite a pacey front line now that they've got rid of Carlton Morris. So whether that punishes us, and I haven't seen enough of our centre-backs, and certainly the new pairing, to see if they're fast enough to deal with that threat. But I think we'll go for it. It might be a high-scoring game. Whether it's a one-sided high-scoring game, I'm not sure. I will also be really intrigued to see who starts in goal, because I don't know if he's going to stick with Bilikapic or if he'll move to our new signing, who no one really knows much about. Yeah, I suppose we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Reyes. Is that right, Max?
Yeah.
The guy that we've got from Norwich. Yeah, I think that he comes in. I think that Fergie was relatively miffed with Bilo last week, despite him making a couple of good saves. I think that Fergie probably thinks that he probably should have done better. Definitely with a second. I know that the free kick, it's a worldie, isn't it? It was a knuckleball, so very difficult to save. But I felt that Bilo should have saved the first one. The only one that I really want to hear from you on, and I've told Max that he's only allowed to give a one-word answer, so I'm going to let Max give his one-word answer before you give me, and I give you the floor, is I want to know, Max, yes or no only, please. Will, you've got as long as you like to talk about this man. Does Archie Collins start for Peterborough United tomorrow?
Yes.
He absolutely has to. We are not ready to live life without Archie yet until we find at least a suitable replacement. I know we brought in Brandon, but that's more of Hector's replacement as opposed to Archie. If he goes, and I don't think he'll go. I think he'll stay and see out his contract, because I don't think we'll find a club that matches our evaluation, because I know it's quite high. But if he does go, there has to be a signing immediately that can fill that boots. Because at the moment, you look at who we've got with Donne and de Havilland, and it's not looking great. But he has to start absolutely tomorrow.
Yeah, let's talk about the general squad as a whole then, because we've just talked to Dave obviously about Luton Town squad, and surprisingly they spent very little. The Jerry Yates is undisclosed. I presume that's a big chunk of money, but actually all disclosed, they've only spent 1.15 million over this transfer window, which is extremely good business. It's a great pull. So when you look at the quality between the two squads, Will, I personally believe there's a big drop off. I wanted to know from you, do you think we're going to be able to compete with Luton tomorrow? I know we've talked about the game as a whole, but if we think about the game itself, do you think we're going to be able to compete with Luton? But not only that, for the rest of the season, with a lot of these sides that recruitment-wise seem to be able to spend more money, but also get more quality in.
Well, I think on paper, you'll struggle to find a Peterborough player that matches up better than a Luton player. You obviously, there's a shout for Archie there, but overall, they've got a better side. But of course, everyone said that last year when they're in the Championship, that they were going to have this super team, and it fell apart. So it's hard to tell until they really step out onto the pitch. For the season, I feel like we'll grow into it as we go. Like we'll begin to see more of our younger players, like Kean Hayes. He'll start to flourish, I hope. And some of the new signings, that like Joe Andrews, I'd like to see him appear on the bench and hopefully make some kind of appearance. Maybe not tomorrow; it's not the right game for him. But over the season, and we've got Jacob Wakeling as well. Who knows where he is at the moment? Is he fit? Is he ready to play? Is he going to be on the bench? I'd like to see him, because last season's pre-season, he was prolific, and then he disappeared on loan and never came back. But yeah, I think we'll grow into it as we go.
Will, the missing man from last week, Chris Clark, what are your thoughts on him? Obviously, there's not been too much spoken about him this week, but the rumour was he's going to head out on loan. Do you see a place for him in the squad tomorrow?
Yeah, I was really surprised that he didn't have any feature at all last week, because he had a decent pre-season. He played in a lot of the minutes and picked up a few goals, albeit against lesser opposition. I think there's a player in there. Whether there's some stuff off the pitch that's not quite right with him, well, I don't know. But it seems that it's just not quite clicking for him, because technically, like his technical ability, it serves a place in the team. Whether it's his work ethic or something is holding him back, but he has potential to do really well. It's just whether at Peterborough United or out on loan. And especially with signing that Lolos last week, I feel like it's going to be tough to see him starting alongside him or in the same team as him. So maybe a loan would be the one for me.
Yeah, interesting you say that, isn't it? And I just said today about Lolos, I think he's going to be a real threat. And it's a good bit of business that we've done as a whole. The lineup itself, we've touched on it here and there. Is there any other general changes that you'd make from the Cardiff squad? I'm just sort of trying to think who I would change, and honestly, there isn't many. I think for me, if I had to answer the question, Dobby's a big one for me. he was really poor, I felt, against Cardiff. Is that something you agree with? Is there any other general changes you make to the squad? Like, what does your lineup look like for you?
Yeah, I think O'Brien Brady, it was a surprise to see him start. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. I thought that would be Con Clark's place in the squad last week. Tomorrow, I'd like to see Kirill Lisby get us a start, but I know when he came on, he came on more left wing where Odo was, and whether he deserves to be dropped or not, I know he didn't have the best game ever, but I am a fan of Odo. But then Lisby was fantastic when he came on, so I'd like to see him play more than half an hour, maybe. Same with Lolos. I'd like to see him play more than half an hour. Probably won't happen. I don't know what his fitness is like. Bradley has to start, of course, but again, I'd like to see Gustav play. And in terms of replacing O'Brien Brady, I'm not sure who's there, because I'm guessing Con Clark's not going to be making an appearance again. If he is, great. That'll be the one. Other than that, looking at the squad now, you haven't really got many midfielders that can play in that position. De Havilland isn't that advanced of a midfielder to play on the front of a three. I think Brandon Keller can play there. I think he did a little bit against Bradford, but unless you bring across one of the wingers to the middle, maybe Kirill Lisby, I can't see it. I can't see O'Brien Brady being dropped if Con Clark isn't in the squad. If he's in the squad, it should be Con Clark.
I think Fergie's talked a lot about systematic changes, hasn't he? And especially around that midfield area to make us easier to beat. I can definitely see a world where we play 2 8s and a 6 tomorrow. And we have Keller, Collins and Ryan de Havilland with no number 10. I can also see a world where Lisby plays as the number 10 and we have Frith and Odo or Kean Hayes, depending on which he thinks is going to cause much of a threat. But I can see Lisby playing that number 10. Considering Dara's labelled him as that Mallet replacement, and Mallet really played second striker, but the deeper he dropped, the more he looked like a natural 10, didn't he? So I can see that happening too. Lots of options tomorrow, and that's something that's really key. And yeah, that's for me. I think there's a lot of options in midfield that we could do without O'Brien Brady. I just don't feel that he's ready. And as means as tough starts goes, Will, you can't get any harder than this, can you? Cardiff and Luton off the bat.
Yeah, of course.
It just seems like where we're going to get our first points from at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 very tough fixtures, but going back to Cardiff, I think we played very well against them overall, even though we had our slumps. I think the same will happen again tomorrow. Whether or not we show up is a different question. I think the first 20 minutes of a football game will be a really good assessment of how the whole 90 will go. Whether Luton will come here thinking that they're already won, I don't know what their mentality is. If they come here and be a bit lax and think, oh, we're playing Peterborough, who struggled last season, we could surprise them. I don't think that will happen, but it could. And yeah, I mean, after this, it gets a bit easier with our fixtures. So maybe that'll be one to see a bit more of O'Brien Brady, but certainly not tomorrow.
Well, one thing that you did mention earlier was that Luton have quite a fast attack.
Yeah.
The player that I thought performed quite well when he replaced Oscar Wallen was George Nevitt. Now, we know that he isn't the fastest of players. Sometimes I think I've made comments about him running with a parachute on his back. George Nevitt was good. He's a good ball player. I think that he can do those things, maybe not as to the high quality that the likes of Ronnie Edwards could do, but is George Nevitt somebody that you would see in the team for tomorrow, or do you think he still needs to earn his stripes?
No, I think I would start tomorrow. I mean, I know Sam Hughes won't be fit, but I would start with Oscar Wallen and David Okabu. I still have faith in him, David. I know a lot of people thought his debut was a bit shaky, but I feel like if you give him time, he will go into the role. Certainly, he's a ball-playing centre-back, and I think that will help us against Luton because they're going to be running in behind. We're going to be passing out quickly. He's certainly built for that role, and almost like a George Nevitt. I don't think you can have a George and a David in a centre-back pairing. It has to be Oscar as one of them, and I can't see Fergie dropping David after one game. I think that'd be slightly harsh, unless we're winning towards the end of the game and we go to a back five. Then I can see George coming on. Other than that, he stays on the bench for me.
Wicked. Well, just to finish us off on this next segment, your score prediction and first goal scorer for tomorrow, please, if you can.
I have to be optimistic. I don't think we'll win, but I think we'll nick a point, maybe get a draw. I think it'll be a 1-1. And I'd love to see Bradley score. I think that would be fantastic. If not, Kean Hayes, I think he needs a goal. That will do him well for confidence. So I'd like to see that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Will. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And like I said, thank you for joining us. Those of you that are in the comments, if you want to join us next week, please do hit us up via my own DM or the Poshcast DM. But like I said, Will, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you very much. See you later.
Right. Just me and you now, Max. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top to the first comment that came in today. Second comment, I should say. And it's Declan Moody, who said that we're getting battered tomorrow. I'm just going to do a quick chat recap. So if there's anything that you want to see up on the screen that's reasonable, let's say, I will put it up and we can have a quick discussion. I don't think we're going to get battered tomorrow. We'll discuss the podcast host predictions a little bit later on, just before we wrap up. But I don't think we're going to win. I'll level with my prediction now. Howard Moon must be related to Ron Hollis, because he has done not one but two super chats for £1.99 each and doesn't even know what a super chat is. So I am sure that Howard Moon is related to Ron Hollis. Those of you that know about Ron Hollis know about Ron Hollis. He wants me to pick him up in a coach from Coates and his wife Sue. I don't think that's going to be happening. Raf D has said that Luton relied on an own goal to win, so he's feeling confident. That goal was a little bit sketchy, wasn't it, Max? Did you catch it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it was really unfortunate for Wimbledon. Again, they come with a game plan and they're undone by a really unfortunate looping header from their own centre half that sort of goes over the top of the poor goalkeeper, who's almost sort of an innocent bystander in it all, as he just watches his hard work for the past 80 minutes or so go to waste. Again, I've said it like a broken record tonight. It's going to be a very different game. We're going to look to go toe-to-toe with Luton because I don't think we're really afraid. We should be, but I don't think we are really afraid to try and go toe-to-toe with these teams to see where this team lies. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. On our home soil, our home turf, we're going to go and we're going to really try and give them a game. And ultimately, I think that's going to be our undoing. But I think we're gonna put everything out on the plate, and we're going to really be able to see who we're going to be able to compete against this season. This game's a huge tell for the rest of the season for me.
Matt has predicted a 2-2 draw. Now, Matt is in pretty much everybody's bad books after creating a video on Twitter and posting it on Twitter, which I'm sure led to many people having a terrible Thursday, when the sudden realization was that the only 3 players that we have left from the Oxford home second leg semi-final were Bilo, Ryan de Havilland and James Dornelli. Where are we? Rafty's not actually going to the game tomorrow. He's attending a relative's golden wedding celebration. But yeah, that is a good thing, isn't it? I think that's something that we probably should discuss. Is obviously Luton are in the GH display tomorrow, and they've also got the A and B block. I was disappointed. I'm not an avid GH displayer, but I was disappointed that for the first home game that wasn't opened up to Posh. But I can also see the reasons why. Obviously, if they're bringing, I actually think that Dave undersold it a little bit. I think that they probably have sold out. From what I've heard from Fergie in his interview, is that they've sold out their allocation. So I'm sure that they will be loud, and those that are looking forward to it will do it. Howard Moon has come back in again, this time not with a super chat, and has said that we shouldn't be throwing Nevitt to the Lions. He's too young to play against Luton. And then Ben would like to see James Dornelli to start tomorrow. No complaints from me if James Dornelli starts over Carl Johnston. And then last comment that I can see is Harley Mills' first goal. I think that the only other thing that we probably want to discuss, Max, is Fergie's interview from yesterday. If you've got any points on that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with Fergie's interview? he really went into detail on a lot of things. Obviously, the thing that we aren't allowed to discuss, which is Archie Collins this evening and his contract situation. But overall, it seems my biggest upset, I think, of the interview, my biggest takeaway was Lolos probably not being fit to start. I just wanted to see Collins, Keller, Lolos midfield and just think what we could have had tomorrow. I think Lolos is going to be such a big impact. I'm really gutted that he's not fit to start, but I almost kind of knew that as well. He didn't really play many games in pre-season, and he wasn't a part of Bolton's plans, was he? So I'm not surprised by the lack of minutes, but that's a worry. And fitness is a huge worry for me going into the season as a whole. With injuries, with fitness, with how many minutes people can play. You know, Fergie mentioned his interview that he's going to manage. We don't actually know who those players are that aren't up to fitness, but that is a worry and a concern for me that there's players still not up to fitness after such a rigorous pre-season that we've had and a mass flurry of games that we've had under our belts, that people still aren't up to that fitness level. And that is a concern for me because Howard Moons, you know, don't throw Nevitt to the Lions. So I'd probably start Nevitt tomorrow and give Wallen a rest. I think we can rotate those two centre halves, and Nevitt came on against Cardiff and played fine. And I think Luton are going to cause us more problems, yes, but you know, Wallen last season was playing in a bad state, and this season is he playing much better? I don't know. He was absolutely atrocious for large portions of the game against Cardiff. And that's something that I'd like to see is can Nevitt come in and play? And yes, the pace of the front line is worrying. But as I've said, if we want to go toe-to-toe with Luton, there's no better player than George Nevitt to put the ball down on his feet and play it through that midfield and pick those passes out. And we saw it against Cardiff, didn't we? The ability George Nevitt gives us at dominant possession. And those last 10 minutes against Cardiff, if we can play like that at home for larger spells of the game, and if George Nevitt can be that sort of dictator of that and shift it in and out because he's got the ability to do that, then I think not starting him is actually a hindrance to us. And starting Oscar Wallen, who looks a lot shakier, and a Cogboy who I think will undersold him a little bit. I think actually a Cogboy was fantastic against Cardiff. He did look a bit shaky in stages, but I thought he looked awesome. So to partner him and Nevitt together, obviously that's a nuisance about partnership, and everybody who knows me knows I enjoy a bit of new, a bit of freshness, and Nevitt and a Cogboy could be the answer to that. And we'll have to wait and see, obviously, for the lineups. But fitness is a concern, and if Oscar Wallen is one of those. And it definitely could be, considering I didn't feel like he played his best. I can't see a reason why we don't play Nevitt tomorrow.
Interesting. The only other player or question that I can see at the moment is, could Frith replace Odo? I'm not sure. We've signed him as the right winger. And this is the difficult thing that it's very when you're analysing games, is that I always find it hard. Like obviously Lisby was good for 10 minutes. He didn't quite have that final piece of the puzzle. And Hayes was good, but they've come on with 10 minutes or 30 minutes of the game remaining. And ultimately when we're chasing the game, they're coming up against 60-minute worth of legs and tired defenders. So I think that naturally they will always look better. I think that what I'd probably like to see is us actually start with at least 80% of the same 11, and that includes changing Bilo. So you're talking probably only two changes. The only two changes that I would like to see from the start of the game tomorrow is going to be Reyes in goal and then Dawn Elliott right back. I think that the guys that play throughout the rest of the pitch should all stay on the pitch and should start and be given that chance, especially at home. Like we've said, that this is going to be a relatively full London road tomorrow. And I think that those that started last week at Cardiff should be given the chance. Look, Hayes is always going to have an impact off the bench. I'm sure that Lisby is going to grow into the club and grow into his role and will ultimately be a starter long term. But I wouldn't want to be harsh enough on those players. I know that it's a cutthroat business, but those that are on the bench are going to get their chance on Tuesday night against Accrington Stanley, aren't they? So I'm not feeling bad if Fergie puts the lineup out and there's only one or two changes. We can't be making massive changes, having only lost 2-1 last week to a team that is ultimately going to get promoted, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree, Ash, in honesty. And in an ideal scenario, I'd depending on the rumours surrounding multiple players, who knows what we could see towards the end. Kean Hayes would be such a fantastic addition, if as in to the starting 11, if we can start him. There's clearly a reason why he's not starting games, though. People have to realise there's clearly a reason why he's not starting games. It's not that Fergie doesn't like a player that has the ability of Kean Hayes. I presume he thinks Frith and Otto are more clinical. And that is something that we've seen an issue with Hayes, is he is less clinical. So that's a worry for me in terms of Kean Hayes. Look, again, the lineup will be the lineup. I think this 11 does deserve a run out of London Road to prove what they're really capable of doing. Cardiff is probably the hardest place to go other than Bradford this season. And it definitely was not an easy first game to give us in terms of an away game. And, you know, that is something that then if you then stop playing players, you're just stripping players of confidence. And that's not something that I think is fair. I really wouldn't make many changes. In fact, I'd probably even keep Johnston on. I didn't think Johnston had a bad game against Cardiff, in all honesty. I think, though, James Donnelly definitely does deserve to make an appearance. He didn't against Cardiff, if I am right. I didn't see him come on anyway if he did. But having him not come on against Cardiff, I really do think he deserves a run out against Luton. And that is something that I would do if I was Fergie and we were in a good position and he thought James Donnelly could positively impact the game, because I really do think that Donnelly is better than Johnston going forward. And if we're looking for a winner, and you know we've brought attacking substitutions on and we don't want to throw the game away in terms of our defence if it's like a 1-0, I'd definitely be taking Johnston off and looking at Donnelly, because Johnson doesn't offer a lot going forward, I don't feel. Very much defensive and busy when he defends as well. And that's something that might be vital. But again, I have my doubts about Johnston. In fact, I've got my doubts about the right back position as a whole. But I think we need to experiment and give James Donnelly a chance, because when he came on last year, he had sort of those developmental sort of games, didn't he? But you know, you look at the Birmingham game especially. I thought it was outstanding, and James Donnelly definitely has a ceiling that we need to explore. So I think James Donnelly should make an appearance, but he doesn't start for me. I think it's Reyes is the only change, and let him and let this squad have their run out on London Road.
Wicked. Right, I'm going to put our score predictions up, hopefully. Now, reminder, the Next Level Barbell Club Predictions League, there is a chance for everybody to win 2 box tickets to a game in the following month if you're the winner of the monthly scores. And then the biggest winner, the top prize at the end of the season, is going to be a £250 cash prize to the winner. As you can see, this week I've gone for Posh to lose 3-2. I think it's going to be another close game. Harley Mills is my first goal scorer. Charlie's gone 1-1 with Bradley Ihonvian to score. Dell also a draw. Brad goal. Harry a draw as well. Own goal this time. Harry's obviously assuming that the own goal gods are going to balance out. John and Lods both with 3-1 Luton score lines, and Brad again to score. And Max, you're going to have to talk me through that prediction. Posh not to score. You're the only one.
It's tough for me. I just think their squad is so much better than ours. I don't see. Look, it's a home game. We love to score goals. That's something we can't deny. But their squad on paper is lunacy. Like, it is so good for this level when you go through it and you really look at it. And we're not going to be like AFC Wimbledon at all. This is going to be such a different game, and I think going toe-to-toe with them is going to be our downfall. And I would love nothing more than for everybody to laugh at me on our predictions, on our episode reviewing Luton, laugh at me for doing such a silly prediction and us winning or even scoring a goal, you know, coming away with a draw. You know me, I'd love nothing more than that. But ultimately, I don't see it ending well for us going toe-to-toe with them.
Well, I think that's everything. Thank you to everyone that has tuned in. Thank you to Prime Vehicle Sales again for their support of this episode and this weekend of fixtures. They'll be there for our Man of the Match, full ratings, and then our episode on Monday. And then also thank you to the Next Level Barbell Club for their support on the Predictions League. Just a reminder on that one that if you have not put your prediction in, you've got until 10:30 tomorrow morning. Head to our website, UpThePoshcast.com. There's a little tab at the top, or if you're on your phone, you can open up the menu and see that. Please do make sure that you get that prediction in. There was over 175 predictions last week that went in and only 5 correct. So nobody is too far behind at this moment in time. I think that you can probably say that probably even a dozen games in, that I think it's going to be close the whole way through the season. But to finish us off, you all know the drill. Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.